And I reckon a previous caller from Nord actually mentioned that he had called the council.
Yeah.
And they'd said that they don't have legislation to do anything about it.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because I actually have a friend who does rotational work for different drug task forces in Australia.
Yeah.
And he was explaining to me how difficult it can be to actually get legislation passed to handle different problems that we're having with the law. And, for example, he was telling me a story about a drug task force he worked with a few years ago. And they found a brown bird. I forget the name, maybe a spine-tailed mandrill, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so we took it to the vet, and the bird was okay, but it had a big obstruction in its stomach. And so they took it out, and they found that it was filled with white powder. And so the local police turned the case over to the drug task force that my friend was working on.
Yeah.
And he said that they'd been noticing a seasonal increase in the drug supply in Australia. And anyway, but they tried to figure out the missing link, and they figured that these birds might be associated with it because the migratory schedules of the birds along the Southeast Asian migratory route,
so
including this type of
using
bird.
them as like carrier pigeons.
Yeah, exactly. And you see how creative they can be with some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And you think about the legislation trying to catch up with this. So they actually started to cooperate with the police in some of these different countries along the migratory path. And they set up a bird weighing program in national parks and wetlands and that kind of thing. And pretty soon they worked out that they must be getting intercepted a particular area of forest in Southeast Asia. And the interesting thing is that these criminal syndicates were actually a major investor in several animal conservation programs in countries along the migratory route. And so a guy that my friend was working with, he realized that it was in the interest of these criminal syndicates for there to be as many of these birds traveling that way as possible. And that's how they actually found the criminals involved, by cross-referencing wire transfers to land and animal conservation organizations with known criminal enterprises. But you know
this is like something out of a movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. Like, you think of all the, financial interests that are at stake and how, people often are in difficult situations in these countries. They'll do anything to, try to make a buck.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so anyway, the authorities back here in Australia waited for the traffic to stop, but it actually didn't go away. And that brings back to the legislation thing. So they actually found out that these crime syndicates were actually funding different, organizations as well. And one of the organizations that they had started funding around the time that their traffic was starting to get intercepted was for the Pacific Sea Turtle Conservation Society. So maybe they weren't successful at that, but you see how, you get all the legislation together and stopping this bird migration thing, and then they're already onto something else right away, and you're behind the eight ball again.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly right. That's what happens. That's what the authorities are up against, the border protection, etc. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good point you make, Rupert. That's a really good point you make, and thank you for doing so.
Yeah. Thanks, Andrew.
That's all right. Call again, all right? Thanks, Rupert.
All right. See you later.